Hello, thank you for tuning in. This is my first video on YouTube, so I just want to introduce myself a little bit before I hop on into the topic. My name is Christina. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. Now I live in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And yeah, it's really cold outside, so I decided to come in and hide from the wind. I just got back from a Toastmasters speech contest. I didn't participate, absolutely not. Maybe in the future, but this time I didn't participate, I was just watching. Anyway, I knew that I was going to make this channel for a while. It's just, I didn't do it for various reasons. First of all, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about, and also time and blah blah blah. So, I decided that I would like to dedicate this channel to self-improvement, learning new things, and working on different aspects of life. I'll just share my journey of becoming the best, most well-rounded person that I can be, and my aim is to hopefully inspire others, and maybe you join in with me so that we can become a generation of greatness. We can gain useful knowledge together, because a lot of the knowledge that we pick up on, of course, we live in the information age. We have knowledge here, there, everywhere. Here's knowledge, but it's not always to our benefit. It's not always something that's going to help us in life. A lot of times it's just useless things. So I just want to focus on stuff that's going to make a difference in our lives. Also, just growing spiritually is very important to me, as well as enhancing health, fitness, dealing with emotions, even building wealth, maintaining relationships. There's a lot of different things that we could talk about, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. So, without further ado, today I wanted to talk about a book called Fighting with Gandhi. This is what it looks like. Well, they had a cover, but I don't have it right now. So it's a comprehensive handbook of Gandhian fighting philosophy. It was written in 1984 by Mark Juergensmeyer. I always have to remember how to say his name, Mark Juergensmeyer. And what made me think about it recently is that my mother actually bought me a Gandhi diary. It's like a diary with Gandhi quotes in it. I'd show it to you, but it's in my car. And she presented it to me somewhere around MLK Day, so it's been a little while. And I have very complex feelings about Gandhi in general, because I really, really want to like Gandhi, but unfortunately, some of the things he said I just take such issue with. And a lot of people who have studied Gandhi might already know what I'm talking about. But first of all, he very strongly supported apartheid, and he thought that whites should be the majority race in South Africa. So, very unfortunate sentiments from a very influential man. I don't need to have been alive during that time to know that it wasn't completely true. Actually, probably wasn't true at all. There is no evidence that he changed his opinion at any point in his life. And of course, in the last quote, when he mentioned the word native, he was talking about black Africans. So, that being said, regardless of his political views, because Mark Juergensmeyer, in Fighting with Gandhi, he really doesn't get so much into Gandhi as a human being. He more so talks about Gandhi's philosophy on fighting. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And the first sentence in the book is Gandhi was a fighter. And that is very, very important to remember. Because a lot of times we tend to have this image of Gandhi, at least in this society, and I think all over the world really, of this very peaceful, fragile old man who he had strong opinions about things, but he didn't seem to be a person who could get worked up very easily. And maybe that's true to an extent, but Gandhi still was a fighter in his own right. He turned every opportunity that he could into some sort of confrontation, but a confrontation towards a cause. Another thing that I wanted to point out is Mark Juergensmeyer says that nonviolent activism is not an evasive strategy. Gandhi was always on the offense. And again, I think it's seen a lot of times with spiritual life or people who say, okay, well, I'm nonviolent, I'm going to follow the principles of ahimsa. So that means that I'm just going to run away from this. And I'm not saying that everyone who follows ahimsa is running away. What I'm saying is that can be mistaken for a way out of a situation. But no, actually, nonviolent activism is you are actively pursuing a course just in a nonviolent way. Something I think many people don't know is that Gandhi, at some point during his life, discarded the term passive resistance because there was really nothing passive about what he was doing at all. In his view, even violence was better than non action. And towards that end, he did not advocate weakness at all. Neither did Martin Luther King Jr., by the way. Another important point is that the goal of a Gandhian conflict is always to search for truth. It's not about being right. It's not about just badgering the other person until they give in. It's about analyzing both sides of the equation and saying, okay, where are we? How can we meet in the middle here? How can we find a win-win solution? That's another very, very important aspect of a Gandhian conflict. Finding something that works for both parties. Coming to a compromise. If you can't win outright, if the other person cannot become convinced of your goal, if they cannot become convinced of your point of view, then you find a compromise somewhere. And the last thing I want to talk about is that Gandhi spoke very much against using coercion as a tactic. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I came across a very interesting news story, and I think it actually happened quite a while ago, but it was brought up recently, probably because of the Flint, Michigan water issue. For those of you who don't know, maybe you don't live in the country, Flint was recently hit with a lot of lead and other substances entering their water supply, and it poisoned all of the drinking water for the city. And so it was a huge crisis. Apparently, something very similar happened, I want to say, last year in about July, to Detroit, Michigan. Now, in Detroit, a lot of people couldn't pay their water bills, and it was a huge disaster. So, PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, stepped in, and they said, we will pay your overdue water bill for you for 10 families in Detroit if you go vegan for 30 days. Now, on surface, it sounds like, okay, you're going to pay the water bills, that's great. But I did very strongly think that that was coercion on the part of PETA. Now, even though I take issues with Gandhi personally, and maybe even some of the things that he says, I don't think he was right about everything. However, I do feel that he has a point when he talks about not using coercion as a tactic to get what you want or to get what you need. And in this case, PETA telling people that they would help them for something necessary. They would help to pay their water bill. Water, which is something that we need. It's not a luxury. And water, which is not something that if they paid it, they would be directly contributing to any animal suffering, any human suffering, any environmental crisis. In fact, they would only be helping. They chose only to do that for those people who they deemed worthy, those people who lived by their example, lived by their standards. Now, one of the reasons I feel so emotional about this is because I'm a vegetarian, and I think PETA over the years has just made us look bad in a lot of ways. Um, I'm not going to get into it too much in this video because that's not really the point of it. But I am just going to say that I think PETA could have chosen another avenue to maybe educate those who they wanted to help out in Detroit. So what my suggestion would be to PETA is simply to say, we will pay your water bills regardless. We're just going to pay it. And then take those 10 families aside and perhaps tell them, perhaps educate them a little bit. Okay, this is why we're vegan. This is why we promote veganism. And here's how you can get started. Let me help you out with that. So I probably should get going at this point. I have to get some other things done. I need to make some jewelry. Something that I've been doing a lot lately. I've been putting together little jewelry pieces, and I probably should do some of that. But I definitely look forward to talking more about different issues. Look forward to seeing you again in another video. Please comment if you have any additional information about Gandhi or any other topic that you'd like me to talk about. And I just want to say, I especially do want to hear more about Gandhi because I really honestly want to like him. I searched everywhere for information to suggest that maybe he changed his mind about some of his more intolerant views, I'll say, but I haven't found anything yet. So I would love to hear if there's some substantiation to the elevation of Gandhi as a very tolerant and kind figure in society and in history. So anyway, that's it. Subscribe for more information. There's a lot more videos to come. So I'd like to talk to you soon. Bye.